We were discussing the third chapter of Hornbill. Let us continue the discussion. Today I shall read the third paragraph on 23rd page. Certain things were left out, although I had given the summary of that part. I had left out some points. That is why I am reading this paragraph. So you may please take that page 23rd, third paragraph. I shall read that paragraph first and then I will explain. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in the 1920s, said Sahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. Carter Howard, that is, was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. Its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, were surprisingly complete. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance, meant to guarantee resurrection, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery and still get the most attention. But Tut was also buried with everyday things he would want in the afterlife: board games, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. While the CT scan of the Egyptian mummy was in progress, the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mr. Sahi Hawass, made an observation that Howard Carter, who had discovered Tut's mummy, had damaged it because of carelessness. Then in the next sentence, the reference is to the researches made by many people even before Carter had discovered it. So, but all those attempts were futile. Futile means useless. So nobody could discover anything prior to the discovery of Carter in 1922. But after Carter's discovery, this pharaoh's tomb became a legend. Legend means a great story. The huge collection of gold and other treasures found in the tomb actually became so popular and attracted a lot of tourists. And it became a great sensation. There is a reference to the belief of the pharaohs in afterlife. That was why a lot of treasures were buried along with the mummies in those days. Here two phrases are used: eternal brilliance. Their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection. That means these artifacts remained intact and unspoiled for 3 millenniums, which was sufficient to guarantee resurrection for the skin touch. Next, I shall read the fourth paragraph on 23rd page. After that, I will explain. After months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, Carter began investigating his 3 nested coffins. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers, the faded evidence of a burial in March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble, the ritual resins had hardened, cementing tucked to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later. What was to be done? I had already given the summary of this portion earlier, but I had left out one point. That is why I read this paragraph once again. In the 6th line, in the 5th line, there is a sentence which is running like this. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble. So this is an important sentence because later we will find that he was forced to chisel away the mummy because it was glued to the coffin, and for this reason this mummy was partially damaged. And as we had seen earlier, Carter was criticized for this by the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. Earlier, I had given a summary of this portion, but I will explain some phrases in this paragraph. For example, in the 6th line of this paragraph, the sentence which is running like this: the ritual resins had hardened, cementing tucked to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. And this sentence means the mummy was so intensely stuck or glued into the coffin because of the presence of the ritual resins which had become hardened. Ritual resins refers to the plant secretion which were used, which was already a few things were mentioned, which is mentioned in this paragraph also: garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, etc. All these are part of that ritual. Cementing refers to the solidification. It became so rigid. Then in the next sentence, no amount of legitimate force could move them. That means no standardized technique or accepted techniques could move them. It had become so rigid. That is the meaning of that sentence. Now, children, please look at the bottom of page 23. I am going to read the last paragraph, and I will explain that after that. Please listen. The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the resins. For several hours, he set the mummy outside in blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing budged. He reported with scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. The writer Anne Williams remarks that the heat of Egypt is unimaginably scorching. So it can beat down like a hammer, especially in southern Egypt. So what did Howard Carter do? He tried to utilize this heat to loosen the resins in the coffin. In his defense, Carter really had little choice. If he hadn't cut the mummy free, thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. In Tut's time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take their riches with them. For his journey to the great beyond, King Tut was lavished with glittering goods, precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheets for his fingers and toes, and the now iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. To separate Tut from his adornments, Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding that concealed the damage. The bed where Tut now rests. Dear students, with this I am winding up today's English lessons, and we shall continue in the next class. Please read the lesson repeatedly. Okay, have a good day. Thank you.